I worry that the lessons that people will learn is like, oh, well, hate sells, like division works. Um, and most people I know who went into public service don't view the world that way. But I've seen enough people be willing to say, well, I'm going to put my principles and my views aside because, you know, I can't upset the president, or I can't, upset the people who support him. It's like, that's not leadership. That's not. And I've done things that I know what it's like to have people upset with me. Okay. Like, I've done a few things that people don't love. And so I hope, if you feel that way, or you all do that, again, I hope you find a way to channel that, because far more people are like you. And what I saw through the No Hate in the Garden State campaign that you guys were a part of, most people are not like that. And yet we're in a political moment where it seems to the majority that works. And that is a really bad place for this country to be if that continues.
Today, we sit here with the man behind some of New Jersey's toughest legal cases. And as he fights for our quality of life daily, we're here to figure out how he does it and why. Everyone, introducing New Jersey's Attorney General, Matthew Platkin. Watch out, the clock may tick and your life's over. Choosing to be happy takes weight off your shoulder.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Elizabeth Youth Theater Ensemble. Like, this is like a big deal. Like, we're all like, wow. Like, you saw the applause.
Well, this is a big deal for me. I'm
Yes.
super psyched to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today? How are you feeling?
I'm good. I just said the air conditioning is working really great in here. I don't know.
I
It
know.
was the first time outside. I was working all day, and I go outside. I realized it's like we're back to summer. I know we had a little bit of fall last week, so
Do you often stay in your office a lot?
I try not to. But today was one of those days. I like to
Yeah.
get out. I like to do that and do this. I mean, this right here is the highlight of my week, no doubt.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, so, you grew up in New Jersey.
Yep.
So I know you grew up. You graduated from Madison High School. All of that stuff. So, what was it like growing up in New Jersey, in general?
I was great. I mean, like anywhere you grow up, you sort of want to, I feel like you probably want to go see other things and try other things, but there's a reason why I came back here. I mean, I think it's the best place in the country to grow up. I'm raising my 2 kids here. And, New Jersey, like, you kind of know where you stand. People are real. People are funny. It's diverse. We've got great food. We've got great culture. We've got great music. People just, I feel like people we're a small state, but people love to talk about us for a reason. We pack a big punch.
Did you ever live like outside of Jersey at all?
I did. So I went to college and law school in California. So I did 7 years in California. I spent some time in D.C. I spent some time in Texas. It's actually where I met my wife. So I've lived kind of, I've bounced around, but I'm born and raised in New Jersey, and I always knew I was coming back here.
So like it's your favorite place?
It's my favorite place. Yeah.
I love Jersey and the beaches.
That's right. We got the shore. We're close to New York.
Yeah.
We got sort of everything here. You can do everything.
You say like, is there any noticeable changes from growing up, like when you were younger to now? Are things still the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things are different, but we've had new communities grow. I mean, like I said, New Jersey's always been one of the most diverse states in America. You think back, history of Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, a lot of immigrant communities coming through here, including right here in this city, which I think is a beautiful story that we should be proud of. That's something that I think we should be proud of in our state. And, so some of the communities are different in terms of the demographics, but the spirit of the state, I think, is very much the same. We're the most densely populated state, so we kind of live on top of each other. We can't avoid people, but it's a beautiful state. And I've had the chance to travel all around it. And I hope you guys do too. Go
Mhm.
see it. You could drive an hour and be in a totally different part of the world. And that's one of the things I love about it.
Mhm. And like especially growing up here in Elizabeth, it's just so diverse and like
Mhm.
it's just such a strong community. Like I just feel so connected to everyone. Like
Yeah.
here,
Yeah, this is
like
one of the most diverse cities in America and
mhm.
some of the best food.
Word, word.
So I wanted to ask, what inspired you to do law? Like, what was your motivation? What drove you to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, certainly when I was your guys' age. I mean, I wouldn't have probably even known what an attorney general was. So the fact that you guys, first of all, congratulations, did a great job in the No Hate in the Garden State competition. So that's where we first connected. But it wasn't like when I was in high school, I wasn't sitting there saying I want to be the attorney general.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty obnoxious if I said that now, though.
Yeah.
I knew I think as I started going through school and going to college, in high school, my 5th day of high school was September 11th, 2001. And so that really affected me, and, the world was changing and I had friends going off to war, and it sort of started making me think about issues in a different way. And then I really got involved in high school in the gun violence prevention
Yeah.
movement. I was kind of the first. I was growing up in the first generation of the school shootings environment, and um, I candidly I thought we would have solved the problem by now. So it sort of got me interested and got me engaged, and I knew I wanted to do something in public service. I knew I wanted to do some work that helped people, and law school eventually became part of that, but it wasn't something that I kind of knew I wanted to do growing up.
And you went to law school at Stanford?
Yep, in California.
Oh.
That was part of my 2 tours of duty out there.
Mhm. So, like, how was your college experience like? Because I heard that law school was like insane. Like, we literally just interviewed someone. He was like, "Oh yeah, I used to stay up till like 3 a.m. Like, I wouldn't sleep, I wouldn't eat, just study, study, study." So, like, how was
Yeah.
it like for you?
Yeah, first year of law school is like that. They kind of like
Oh.
let you take your foot off the gas a little
Okay.
bit the second 2 years. Um, you know, I, I loved college. I loved being in school. I loved
Mhm.
learning. I always found what I was studying was interesting. And college for me, I didn't grow up in the most diverse community.
Mhm.
And so college for me was really about was broadened my horizons, and I met people from all over the country, all over the world. Um, I learned about things. I challenged myself. I like things that I had sort of thought I understood. I really didn't understand, and so
Mhm.
I started challenging those assumptions and learning about myself and about others. And obviously, you learn a whole lot of things in college. And I developed, to this day, some of the best friends in my life. And so, it was really an experience for me that broadened my horizons in a really positive way and made me think critically about, well, how can I have an impact?
Mhm. Do you still think about those experiences like now, especially like in the position that you are right now, all the people you met and all the diversity?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, the reason why. So my first day of college, I met some of my best friends. One was from a guy named Ray Saldana. He's from South Side of San Antonio. And after we fast forward 4 years later, I graduate from college, and I'm working in Washington D.C.
Mhm.
And he calls me and he says he's thinking about running for city council in his hometown of San Antonio. And so I was just like, all right, I'll run your campaign. Now, I had never been to San Antonio, Texas, and I had never worked on a campaign. So I was probably not the best candidate for him, but I was really cheap. And so I was
Yeah.
so I moved to Texas, and I lived in his mom's house, and I ran that campaign when we were 23 years old. And I learned, I have had the privilege of having a great public school education in New Jersey, really great college and law school. But that time I spent in San Antonio was some of the best educational experiences I've ever had, because I was just talking to people about how does government fit into their lives? How does it
Yeah.
affect them? And I would have never had that if that time there if it wasn't for my relationship that I developed on the first day of college with Ray. And then on top of it, I met my wife when I was down there. So things kind of worked out.
Okay. I also just really had this question because I was really curious. Have you seen Legally Blonde?
Yes.
Okay.
I
just
think it's
wanted to
actually
know.
filmed it.
Really?
Is it? No, it's filmed at Harvard. What's the other one with Reese Witherspoon? You guys probably. Is that Legally Blonde?
Yeah.
I think that might have been filmed at Stanford.
Really?
Am I confused? No. I'm dating myself here. I'm really embarrassed. Usually I'm good on this stuff. It's okay. We'll remember it by the end of it.
Yeah, probably when camera's cut.
Yeah, we need some audience assistance.
Is media, court, and like all of that stuff, is it like in real life at all?
Yeah, it's exactly the same as Legally Blonde and
Right.
Suits. No, I mean, look, there's elements to it. Sure. I mean, I think legal drama like sort of makes good TV. People, Law and
Right.
Order and all this
Judge
stuff.
Judy.
Judge Judy. Yes. I admit I was a huge Judge Judy fan growing up.
Me too. Me too.
The few days that my mom would let me stay home, if I had to be really sick for them to let me stay home from
Oh.
school. I would want to watch Price is Right, which I don't know if you guys, is that still? Yeah, Drew Carey now, right? Or did he? Yeah, all right. And Judge Judy. That was like the highlight of my sick day experience. But no, the truth is, like those shows, they obviously dramatize it a lot and make it fictional. But the work we do is impactful and it's important, and there's definitely drama there. But maybe not quite the same as Legally Blonde or Suits or whatever.
I also wanted to ask you, because like a lot of us in the audience were college students. I'm a college student, but he's about to be a college student. Overall, like, just what is your advice in general for college students? Because like personally, sometimes I feel so lost.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing this thing that like I'm just like, it's just I'm spending all this money and I'm just like, oh, like my brain just spirals. So like, any advice for college students in general?
Yeah, look, I think, I feel for you guys because you talk about things that we haven't solved. I mean, the student debt crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still paying loans. In fact, my wife went back to school and is finishing her doctorate, so I'm accumulating new debt, which at my age is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I'm very proud of her. So I get it. And it for your generation, like I think this is one of, if not the most central challenges, is like how do we make sure that school and education is affordable? And right now it's not, period. And so, we've taken on cases, we've taken on the student loan industry, and but there's a lot more that needs to be done. So, first and foremost though, I would say make sure that you're pursuing something that you feel some passion about. Now I know that that's like an easy thing to say, and you guys are the ones taking on the debt, but I think you'll find, and I hope some of you consider a career in public service. You guys are growing up at a time, I talked about 9/11. That was sort of my formative experience. 9/11, the financial crisis. You guys are growing up at a time when there's really deep cynicism and distrust in government. And that's in turn meant a lot of people don't want to work in or for or with government. And I get that. Trust me, like I've worked in public service most of my career, and I understand why folks look at it and say, well, the student debt crisis isn't solved. We still have gun violence. The economy's not working great. Homes are way too expensive. Like all the things that you guys are dealing with, I get. And I think for a lot of folks, the reaction is, well, let's just tune out. Let's just turn it off. But the truth is, none of that changes unless you guys get engaged. And you already see that. You're here on a hot summer afternoon. You guys are running an awesome podcast. Like the way you have that impact can take a lot. So I hope some of you consider getting engaged. And the other part that's harder for you that really came about as I was sort of aging out of school is the social media dynamic.
Yeah.
And, I will say, like, you're doing an awesome podcast. I assume this is somehow, maybe makes its way onto social media or whatever.
Yeah,
but
it will.
and that's a good thing. Like, it's a way to reach people that otherwise we couldn't reach. But there's a downside to social media that you guys are, and the technology that you guys have had to deal with as you've grown up, and whether it be the challenges with mental health or addiction to the phones. And they design these platforms to hook you. I mean, they know it. I sued Meta, I sued TikTok, I sued Discord. So, we've taken on them because they've built these platforms in ways that are designed to hook you and make sure and keep you on for much longer than you would otherwise want to be there. And so I think, college is a chance to kind of unplug from that and meet people and interact. And it becomes much harder once you get out of college and out of the educational experience to sort of just like engage with folks and get to know people and exchange ideas and debate things and learn from them. And that's something I definitely miss a little bit about my time in college and law school.
What is it like really suing against such big companies or suing against like the student loan, what's it called?
Like the servicers or the industry.
Like what is it like suing against like something so large? Like
Well, so you asked, like, did I think I was becoming a lawyer? Like, you guys saw me walk in. I'm not the tallest, biggest guy. So fighting wasn't really, like, I was in one fight, 6th grade, and I lost badly. Okay? Badly. So I realized that was not going to, but I like fighting. I like fighting for things, and I like fighting for things I care about. And so for me, as a lawyer, you can fight for people and you can fight for causes. And this is one thing that is true with the shows is, you can stand up for people. And so as the Attorney General, my job is, you didn't hire me. At least I don't think you knew you did, but I'm your lawyer. And my job is to represent you all and to stand up for you all. And there's only one office in the state that can sue on behalf of the people of New Jersey, and it's our office. And so, every case we bring, we look at basically two things. Are you breaking the law, and are you hurting people in New Jersey? And so that was true for the opioid industry. It was certainly true for student loans. It was true and it's true for some of the big tech companies that we've sued, gun companies, healthcare companies, you name it. If you're hurting people here, then we're going to stand up for you, because otherwise the playing field is so imbalanced. You can't expect the ordinary New Jerseyan to be able to vindicate all their rights and protect themselves on their own. The government's job is to stand up for them. And that's kind of how I view my job. So yeah, when you take on Meta or TikTok, like, they're not just going to say, great, thanks for suing me, here's everything you want. They tend to fight, pretty tough. And they're entitled to fight for their interests, but we've got a pretty good track record. I just settled the largest case ever settled by a state attorney general last week for environmental pollution in our drinking water, a $2.5 billion settlement.
really?
So I mean, I'll take our record against theirs, and you'll see how the cases play out. But yeah, we've tried to take on tough fights, big fights, no matter who it's against, as long as it's in the best interest of the people of the state.
So before we get into your work life, you told us about yourself. For the people here, can you explain what it is an attorney general? What it is you really do?
I was hoping you'd tell me. I'm 4 years in. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think I kind of, in some ways just touched on it. The attorney general is your lawyer. He is the people's lawyer. He is she is the people's lawyer. He is the person, I am the person that stands up on your behalf. And so in New Jersey, I'm the chief law enforcement officer, so I oversee law enforcement. My primary job is to keep you safe, and I take a very broad view of what that means. So I mentioned gun violence, lowest level of gun violence in New Jersey history, 3 years running since I've been in office. I'm very proud of that. Obviously, we have a lot of work left to do.
Yeah.
But, last year, 2 years ago was the first year we've ever had under 1,000 people shot in New Jersey history since we've been tracking it. Last year, we were under 800. This year, we're tracking about 30% below where we were last year. So last year, about half the number of people were shot as compared to a decade earlier. So again, nothing to celebrate 778 people being shot, but that's literally almost 800 people fewer than were shot in 2012. And those are hundreds of families and thousands of people across our state who are being able to be together. So I'm really proud of that work. But, obviously, so gun violence, other crime is an important part of my job. But I think we need to think about how public safety works in a broader sense. It means like what you guys did. You guys joined our No Hate in the Garden State campaign, keeping you safe from bias. Do you feel safe? It's not just are you safe? Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe going to the store, going to the movies? Does anybody go to the mall anymore? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, going to the mall. All right. I'm the youngest AG in the country, but sometimes I feel like when I talk to people, like, what's the mall? Although you guys got one close, so that makes sense. Go to the mall, go to your house of worship, wherever religion you subscribe to, go to school, go to work, and feel safe regardless of who you are, how you look, where you're from, what language you speak, who you love. Those are all real things that people feel every day. And so making you feel safe doing that. Safe when you go to the stores, and so that you're not going to buy something and get ripped off. Safe when you go on your phones and not going to be targeted again unlawfully or in ways that put you at risk. So all the things we do in some way, shape, or form keeps you safe, and that fundamentally is my job.
So I know you were appointed by General Murphy. So you were actually the youngest attorney general in New Jersey at the age of 35. Can you tell me how did that feel?
Well, I don't know how it feels to be the oldest, so I only know. No, I'm just kidding. Look, I'm really privileged, and I feel incredible gratitude to have had this chance. I mean, like I said, I grew up here. I'm raising my family here. I'm raising my two kids in one direction, 4 miles from where my dad grew up in Clifton, and in the other direction, just a few miles from where my great-grandparents moved when they immigrated here. And so, I love this state. I love our communities. I love where we live. And I love the fact that I get to serve it. It's been an incredible privilege. I can't imagine a cooler job. So, on the one hand, I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about the fact that I was, relatively young when I got it. On the other hand, I think sort of being of a new generation helped a little bit. Like, we were the first state to sue Discord. How many of you guys use Discord?
I use Discord too.
Okay. Yeah, so I can tell you I was the only AG in the country who even knew what Discord was.
Really?
200 million kids are on Discord. And I'm not saying they shouldn't exist, but
Yeah.
as we laid out in our lawsuit, they put forth all these things that they said were keeping folks safe, and they knew it wasn't true. So you had a whole bunch of bad things happening on their platform that they knew was happening, and they could have done something about it. And instead, they chose to put their profits ahead of it. So we sued them. But, I think, so in some respects, I have a little bit of a different perspective because of being, a little bit younger and growing up at a different time. But, I try not to let that dominate my focus. There's enough to think about on the day to day. But I'm not gonna lie, it was a huge privilege, and it was incredibly cool to get nominated, and I've sort of been pinching myself every day since.
Like we recently just interviewed someone who was pretty young as well, and he mentioned that a lot of the times, like especially like on his way up to rising, that he was often underestimated for being a younger person. And I feel like the youth are like all of us, we tend to be underestimated, or that we don't know as much, and because of that we're not listened to as much, or other things as such. Did you like ever experience things like that?
Yeah, people like to say, kid, you don't know what you're talking about. I still get some of that. Look, sure, there are people who have more life experience than you. Like, that's just a given your age, and same for me. And there are people who have spent 30 years being, in my shoes, being trial attorneys, for instance. Okay, so, no one person, when you're the attorney general, is going to have the full understanding of everything a department of 8,000 people does, right? So you sort of fill in those gaps. I've tried to bring a team in that complements my experience. But the core thing for you guys to remember is your voice is really impactful. And, people listen to you. I keep coming back to gun violence, but it's been a big part of my career. And, in 2023, 2 years ago, Congress passed and the president signed the first significant piece of legislation addressing the gun violence epidemic in a generation, since when I was younger than you guys. Why did that bill pass? It passed because young people made their voices heard. Young people your age or even younger made their voices heard in Washington. And I know that because I know the people who wrote the bill. And that's what changed the conversation. And so, the story of America is full of young people changing the course of history. John Lewis was 23 when he led the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I mean, you talk about people who were incredibly young and impactful. And there's no reason why you can't do the same. And so I think, that's why I sort of go back to where I said before. There's, unfortunately, when you look at your generation, you both have this ability to reach folks in a way that no generation before you has ever had. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. You have the ability to reach folks and speak in ways that nobody before you has. And yet the prevailing, and this is not you all, because I've spoken, you and I know, but the prevailing sentiment amongst your generation is unfortunately one of cynicism. And it's coming from a place that I said, again, I understand. I understand why you'd sort of look at a lot of the problems we're facing and see how they haven't gotten better and say, well, throw up my hands and say, well, what really can change? But that is a self-defeating attitude. And so what you guys are doing by standing up, by making your voices heard, is the solution. So absolutely, look, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think your voices mattered. And I'm sure that's true for everyone you talk to. And anybody who doesn't believe that, just look, you're always going to have to deal with some haters, and you just got to move on from it.
So true. I actually this whole conversation just makes me feel like a lot calmer, knowing that someone's in office who knows what Discord is and is younger, because often there's just a lot of people in office who don't represent who I am or this city is at all, and I feel like we just need more and more people who represent what they're in charge of. So this whole thing kind of brings me a little bit at peace.
I mean, I hope you guys think about getting involved. That's what our system of government, what sets us apart from every other system of government, is that folks have to listen to you. And if you don't like the way things are going, you have the right to change that. And that is such a critical right that you have. And we're living in a moment now where things are a little scary. And, and I understand why people are saying, well, I don't really feel like this is the time for me to speak out. And for a lot of people, I get that. But if you have the ability to make sure your voice is heard, whether it's something that's, affecting things nationally in Washington or right here in your community, start speaking up. And I'll tell you, one thing I learned in law school, I had a professor. In fact, we were just emailing about this the other day. And she gave a speech that actually was the reason why I ultimately went to law school. I wasn't I was going back and forth. And she talked about how in lawyers, courage is a muscle. And that's true even for beyond lawyers, because if you think about what you're doing, standing up. I remember the first time I went door to door in high school, it was scary. I wasn't good at it. And you'd only get better at it the same way as with an instrument or in a theater or in sports or whatever you do if you practice. And, she had this great line, which was sitting on the fence is not practice for standing up. And so you have to get used to being a little bit uncomfortable. But you pretty quickly realize, what's the worst they can do? They can shut the door in your face if you're going door to door. They can say, we're not listening to you. Well, okay, then you're right back where you started, and you go back to ground zero and you think about different ways to engage. But you get better at it over time, and you only really get better at it if you practice.
And that actually, it relates a lot to our program, because our theme this year, that is what the theater show is based on. That's what we've been asking almost every single person that we're interviewing. Our theme is democracy takes courage. Mm-hmm. And we just want to know, what does that mean to you?
I didn't even know that. And so I feel like I just walked right into a great promo. It's right though. Yeah. We tend to look back at history and think things are linear, right? You think that it was a given that we were going to go from point A to point B. That's not true. This is not a mathematical equation. History and the country and the communities and the state we live in get changed based on people's actions. So, if you're frustrated with where we are right now, think about, go back to the early 19th century and you think about abolitionists and where we were with slavery and people. I mean, I would imagine a lot of them thought maybe things weren't going to get better. And ultimately we fought a civil war and ended slavery, or the women's suffrage movement in the early 20th century. I think there were probably a whole bunch of folks who thought that would never happen, or the civil rights movement who thought we'd never see, the end of Jim Crow in this country. And And we're in a period right now where I think for a lot of folks, it looks like we're either taking steps backward or we're not. We're not being true to what this country says it stands for. And so the only way that's going to change is if people like you all continue to stay engaged. And I think that it's very easy to be sort of cynical. That's the easy thing to do, and especially on social media, it's like almost celebrated if you can have the quickest, coolest, TikTok sort of clap back or whatever it may be. That doesn't actually move the needle. Okay, it can be fun. They can probably go viral. Some of them can be quite funny, but that doesn't actually create lasting change. What creates lasting change is people coming together and working and bringing people along, even folks who might not naturally be inclined to agree with you. Because I learned in that campaign I talked about when I was 23, and this has been sort of something that I've remained one of my core beliefs, unshakably so, is that at the end of the day, most people really do want the same things. They really do. They want to be safe. They want a good job. They want housing. They want to live in communities that they feel comfortable in. They want their families to be happy. We're all kind of seeking the same stuff. And so the key for you all is not to fall victim to that sort of cynicism, and it can take courage to push back on it. But the folks who do will be the ones that I think change their community or state or country, however direction they want to.
I agree. And like, especially what you said with social media, it's just so much in your face sometimes. And like, sometimes like I just genuinely like, I don't know if you feel this too. I just really like, I just don't know what to do. Like, it's just so much.
So hearing all this, for me, I want to be able to do this. It sounds like too much on my plate for me. How do you stress? Like, what do you do for your day to day?
So when you have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, it's really a great way to be humbled. Because there's a very clear pecking order in my house. And while you may think I'm at the top of the legal food chain here, I'm at the bottom of the food chain in my house. And so I'm a dad. I coach baseball. I spend a lot of time, with my son's gotten really into baseball, so I coach him. I run, not very fast, but I run a lot. And it's kind of become therapeutic for me. I don't always admit this, but I watch, my share of trashy TV, mindless stuff. And I try to unplug. I wasn't as good at that earlier in my career. But I find when I don't sort of take those moments, if I don't run or if I don't spend time with my kids or if, I don't sort of find those times to unplug and put the phone down and not sort of obsess with everything that's happening, and because 24/7 now, it's not like you get the morning and evening news. We grew up in a time when it's constant. That I actually am worse at my job, which is not maybe intuitive. Like, if I don't take that time to allow myself to think, that those are actually the moments that I sort of realize what's important and what we should be focusing on, and helps keep me sort of on the right track.
Okay. I know we were just talking about social media and how it's bad, but I had a burning question. On your Instagram,
Yeah.
I see like you're frequently suing the Trump administration. And I was like, wow, like I was just going on a deep dive. Like,
See, I'm okay with you seeing that stuff on Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
That's good.
I was just going on a deep dive. I was like, wow, like this is like, it's just so cool. I really admire that. I saw that you recently sued them for their cutting of funding for Planned Parenthood and access to healthcare. I thought that was really amazing. And can you tell us more about, suing like such a big administration and president, all that stuff?
Yeah, look, I mean, I sort of view it the same way I view the other things I was talking about. If someone's breaking the law and hurting you guys, hurting the people who live in our state, then I think it's my obligation to step in and do something. And the tools that I have are to bring lawsuits. And so we've won essentially every case we filed against the administration. And by the way, I sued the Biden administration too. So not as frequently, but they didn't break the law candidly as frequently. And we'll talk about stuff. I mean, you mentioned Planned Parenthood. We're sitting here in a school. I mean, this administration threatened the entirety of our federal funding for our public schools. Like I said, I'm a parent. I've got kids in the school system, so I understand firsthand what that would mean to our communities. I'm a product of the public school system here. The idea that you would wake up and just decide because you don't like something that we're gonna cut all the funding for schools or kids with special needs or low-income communities or rural communities, all of which happened. I just couldn't stand by and let that happen. He's cut funding for law enforcement. He's cut funding for healthcare. He's made it. He tried to rewrite the 14th Amendment that we talked about the Civil War that hasn't changed. Birthright citizenship, your right to be a citizen based on the fact that you were born on U.S. soil. Something that affects thousands and thousands of babies every year in New Jersey, including right here in this community. The president is powerful in this country, but there's a reason why we have limitations on that power. We don't want to live under a king. And so, our lawsuits that we've led have been about ensuring that those laws are followed and that people in New Jersey are not unlawfully hurt. And, once you sort of think about it that way, I view it as just part of my job. It's not something I'm dying to do, but it's also not something I'm going to back down from if it means protecting the people who live here.
Which is really good. I don't know. I feel personally like I've been so stressed lately. I also just wanted to ask, what is it?
Why? I know you're supposed to be interviewing me.
Oh, me. 'Cause I don't know, just to have someone so opposite of me and everyone around me in office. And I know it's very important to focus on your local politics, but it's just everything I see is it has to do the biggest person in office, and it's just sometimes very stressful.
Yeah.
And then I'd sometimes just remind myself okay, I just have to wait 3 more years, and then maybe there'll be a rainbow or something. I also just wanted to ask, what does it look like when you win these lawsuits against that administration? Does it end? Do we just get money?
Sometimes. So with the education funding, for example, I mean, we've had $22 billion of money is coming to New Jersey that he tried to stop from coming. That was everything from education, healthcare, law enforcement, you go down the list. But just last month, they paid $158 million to New Jersey for education that they froze unlawfully. I just want to go back to something you said, because I think it's sort of related. It goes to what I was talking about earlier, and I think it's what you're speaking to is a lot of why I think people right now are either tuning out or just saying, I'm done. And I think one of the things that bothers me most about the period we're living in and what the president has done is sort of the example he's set is one that it's it's for him, it's beneficial to punish people, to target people, to be cruel in ways that, frankly, I didn't think I don't think this country stands for. I don't think it's what government should be doing to target kids with special needs and punish them and their families. I don't think it's cool or what politicians should be doing to violate the law and punish and demonize immigrant communities who have made up the backbone of this country since the existence of this country. I worry that the lessons that people will learn is hate sells, division works. And most people I know who went into public service don't view the world that way. But I've seen enough people be willing to say, well, I'm going to put my principles and my views aside because, I can't upset the president, or I can't, upset the people who support him. It's that's not leadership. That's not. And I've done things that I know what it's like to have people upset with me. Okay. I've done a few things that people don't love. And so I hope, if you feel that way, or you all do, that again, I hope you find a way to channel that, because far more people are like you And what I saw through the No Hate in the Garden State campaign that you guys were a part of, most people are not like that. And yet we're in a political moment where it seems to the majority that that works. And that is a really bad place for this country to be if that continues.
And I also feel like that's why I always come back to this program, because it is an outlet for me to speak up in how I feel, to turn it into art, to interview and get to know people. And like, I really appreciate your words, because it is true. The only way to get out is to fight. And I think about what happened in the past, and that also inspires me. And I just wanted to say just thank you so much for joining us today and for speaking with us, for connecting with the youth. I just feel like as a politician, it's just so important. And I really appreciate you coming here to us in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and speaking with us. And just thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Thanks for the discussion. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.